Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township for September 7th, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could remain standing, let's do a quick moment of silence for those who perished during the 9/11 attack. This is the 20th anniversary. Thank you. At this time, if Pastor Craig Killinan from Bridgepoint Church could lead us in prayer.
Dear Lord in heaven, yes, we come to you tonight, but Lord, I pray that this is something that we do on a daily basis, that we come to you asking you for your help and your guidance, knowing that you are the only answer for us individually, us as a country, and for our world. God, I pray that you would help us to turn our hearts to you and keep our hearts in tune with you. God, we do thank you for the men and women seated around this table. And Lord, I pray that you would continue to guide and direct them. And as always, we pray for wisdom in making decisions. And God, I pray once again that we would realize the importance of turning and keeping our hearts in tune with yours. So, Lord, bless everything that's said and done this evening. We ask all these things in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, if we could have approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda is submitted.
Support. Okay, motion in and supported by Bruning. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Up next, number 3 is the consent agenda. The agenda committee recommends to A, approve and place on file the minutes of the August 17th, 2021 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, approval to reschedule the November 2nd, 2021 Township Board meeting to November 9th, 2021 due to a special election.
Motion to approve the consent agenda is submitted.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported by Mr. Bruning. Any more discussion? Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Item 4, presentations. Presentation on solar fields. Marla Horpar and Mike Berlin, Orden. So this was brought to my attention a few weeks ago. I called my office and inquired about solar fields here in Bedford Township. Currently, right now, Bedford Township allows them on industrial property, correct, Mr. Goldsmith? It's permitted use. That's permitted use, and the company is looking to do this on agricultural property. Currently, we don't have an ordinance that allows that, so that's why they're here. I'm here to learn, and I've done a lot of research over the last few weeks, so they're here to present to the board. And one reason why we do it like this, instead of it going directly to the Planning Commission, is to save time. So they're not wasting months going before the Planning Commission, spending dollars, and then coming to this board and getting denied or approved. So it comes here to decide if this board wants to pursue in that direction, and if they don't, it stops here and we move on. So I hope at the end of the presentation we can have some sort of consensus to either table to understand, learn more, study more, or direct them to go to the Planning Commission to pursue. So at that, if you'd like to come on up to the podium and start your presentation.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Marla Corper. I'm a part of the development team at Orden. And passing around our presentation is Mike Berlin. He's the Director of Development at Orden. And we're really grateful to be here tonight. So thanks for having us. I think I'll just start off by reiterating what Paul said. Really grateful to be here because at our very start of our project, we really want to get a sense from y'all whether or not this is something that Bedford Township is interested in. developing a solar project takes years and a lot of resources, so we want to make sure we're partners with you as we do it, and that it's something that the community truly wants. So I'll today present to you a little bit about our company, the opportunity, and really be listening to the town board, to the town, to hear what your feedback is and what your sense is as a community. So if you flip to page 1, looking at the agenda here, I'll start with a brief introduction to Orden and our company. Then I'll jump into painting the renewable energy landscape, what's happening in Michigan, why you may want to be a part of it as Bedford Township. And then we'll jump into what we're calling the Bay Creek Solar Project, which is essentially what we're proposing as an opportunity here in Bedford Township. And then finally jump into that discussion. And really, we're here to listen and hear what y'all are thinking. Okay, if you jump to slide 3, you'll see a title that says Best of Both Worlds. That title is how we often describe our company. Orden is really a startup. So we got started in 2019. We're a company of 26 folks. Our expertise comes from every part of the industry, and we work across 14 states in the US right now. But we're backed by Mitsubishi Power. So while we're this 26-person team, small and nimble, there's 26,000 folks that are located in Orlando, Florida, working with Mitsubishi who have our back. And that really allows us to be very focused and speedy in the way we do business each day, but to have the financial backing of Mitsubishi when we move our projects forward. Next page. Pittsburgh is home. And we really like to drive this point home to everyone because we're just a quick 4-hour drive from y'all. We went into the office this morning, we jumped in a car, we drove here to Bedford, we stopped at Sidelines on the way. We can be here in a moment's notice. So if you have questions as the town, our landowners, as we're developing this project, we can be here in an afternoon, and we really value that partnership and that accessibility. Next page. What Orden does is project development. So really, we look at the full life cycle of a project, from concept to operations and maintenance. So if you see the star that says "We are here," you can see we're at the very beginning of developing this project. We've secured some land for the site. We've identified a good place to connect to the grid, but we still need to obtain more land. We need to work with the town in order to understand if we can permit this project, and then we have to do the feasibility studies. So when we're at the start of this process, we come in early as Orden because we want to make sure that we're connected with y'all and that we're able to open our lines of communication. Next slide. So if you're looking at Orden's competitive advantage, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but the one point I really want to point out is that second black box, project execution and quality. For us, project success equals company success. Because we launched 3 years ago, we have a small and dedicated pipeline of projects. Whenever we look at moving a project forward, we're really investing our time, our resources, and we're there to make sure every step of the way that it moves smoothly. So you're going to have real faces, real names behind that project whenever you work with us. All right, next page, renewable energy momentum in Michigan. So this, I think, is where it gets really exciting when you're thinking of it from the perspective of Bedford Township. What's going on in the state of Michigan? So we start at the high level. The state of Michigan has pledged to be carbon neutral by 2050. And then when you look at their interim goals, they've pledged to reduce greenhouse gases by 28% by 2025. So that's coming right around the corner. So when you take those goals and you look at how are they implemented, you really want to look at your utilities. So we have DTE and consumers as the two biggest utilities here in your area, in your state. They have each set goals and then are tied to those goals through action plans that are called IRPs, or integrated resource plans. These IRPs are regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission. So they're helping them move these projects forward, move these goals forward. And if you look, for example, at DTE, some of the goals that they've committed to, 25% renewables by 2025. They've created something called the Michigan Green Power Program. This is a program that allows individual consumers to opt in to having in-state renewable energy provided for their electricity bill. This program alone is set to double the renewable energy generation of DTE by 2024. And then now, if you look at consumers' energy, consumers' IRP has pledged 25% renewables by 2025. At the same time, 25% of those assets are announced retirements, and an additional 20% are distressed. So when I listen to that, okay, we have 25% renewables. We have 25% that are going to be retired, and then 20% distressed. What that's telling me is more renewables are coming into the state, and more of their traditional assets are being retired. There's going to be more electricity demand than systems currently available. So there's an incredible opportunity here for renewable energy development. And then really specific to us, if you look at that bold point that says adding 5 gigawatts of solar energy through competitive bidding in by 2030. That's really where a company like Orden comes in. They're looking for solar developers, folks whose expertise is taking these projects full cycle, creating them so that they can then buy that electricity and share it locally. And that's really what we're hoping to achieve through this project, is to create that local electricity that consumers and DTE are going to be looking for in the next 1, 5, 10, and 20 years. So if you go to the next page and you look at the title that says Bay Creek Solar Project. Now this is where it really gets personal with Bedford Township, and we can talk about what this could look like for y'all. So if you look at that map that is on the right-hand side, we're looking at a project that goes between Rauch Road and Samaria, between Crab Street and Minks. Those green boxes on this drawing, that is the land that we've already gotten site control for, is what we call it, site control, which means leases that allow us to build if we move this project forward. What you also see is there's a lot of land there that is not under that green box yet. So we are looking to secure more land and to work with folks in that area to really build this project. The other thing you'll see on that drawing is 3 yellow lines. Those are transmission lines. So that is where we would connect our project to the grid. So if you can imagine, you see those lines are there and the project is lined up right next to that. We have a really close point of interconnection that could make this project very attractive. All right, I want to talk through some of the bullets on the left, or the icons on the left. So what are we envisioning for this project? We're envisioning a 100 megawatt solar energy project. That looks like 800 acres of land in order to build that scale of project. What that means in terms of electricity is an equivalent, you could think of it like creating electricity for 18,000 houses each year annually. As Paul mentioned, this is agricultural zoned land, so we're looking at all property that is currently used for agricultural use. And when you think about it from a local level, why would Bedford Township want this? We really think about it with the economic opportunity it creates for you. We fully expect a project like this would bring in tax revenue, and it will bring in local jobs, construction jobs, between 50 to 70 jobs. And we will also be hiring local consultants throughout the state of Michigan through the life cycle of the project. So now let's look at the arrow at the bottom of the page. This is our timeline. So the two things I see right away when I look at this, we're in 2021, and if you look at the end, 2025, these are long-term projects. we will not be in construction until the better half or of 2024 or the beginning of 2025. So bringing it back to where we're at in this process, we're just in the beginning. We have some land. We've submitted what's called an interconnection application. That means that we've reached out to make sure that we can tie into these transmission lines and that the transmission, the utility has enough capacity for us to be able to build this site. Before we move forward and invest capital and resources into this, it's really important for us to understand where Bedford stands. So that's really what we're here to hear from you all tonight, is how you feel about a project here. Would you be excited? Is this an opportunity you expect that you would like for your community? If it is, you look through 2021 through 2024, that's when all of the development really begins. We'll go through a permitting process. We'll hire the contractors that will build the project. We'll get financing, et cetera. So a lot of intermediary steps happen in between 2021 and 2025. All right, if you flip to the final page that says zoning discussion, again, bringing it back to this final piece. One, we really want to hear from y'all and get your feedback if you're interested in a project here and what that might look like. And then two, recognizing that this is something that would really go in front of the Planning Commission. We have a current situation and understanding of what could be a potential path forward. So as we understand right now, there's no solar ordinance in place in Bedford Township. The land is zoned agricultural as an agricultural district. And in the township's master plan, it is identified as an agricultural preservation area. What we would propose as a solution forward is including solar as a principal use, permitted subject to special approval. And we propose that pathway for a few ways. First of all, in the short term, it maintains the agricultural designation. So what that does is it preserves the intent of the land in the long term, and it aligns with the master plan and its current zoning requirements. Two, it aligns with what the state is doing with commercial solar. So through MDARD, they have a policy. It's called PA 116 solar policy. And they list solar, commercial solar, as a recognized use under MDARD. The reason they do that is because they recognize that it is compatible with ag and it preserves the land for future use and that long-term vision. And then finally, by making it a special use, it maintains the oversight of the town. So every project will go through an approval process just like any other special approval, and it aligns with what the town wants and needs. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I have to be honest, y'all. I was pretty nervous when I talked through that. So hopefully now we can slow it down a bit and have a conversation. Would love to hear what y'all think.
Okay. So I'm going to do things a little bit different than we normally would. I'm going to open it up for public comment now. That way we can hear from the residents before we have our discussion and make a decision or do what we're going to do. So we're going to do the normal 5-minute public comment right now, and you can talk about anything that's on the agenda, just like we normally would. And then when we're done, if you guys want to take notes, you can come back up and answer all the questions.
Perfect.
And then board discussion will happen.
Wonderful.
So let's go ahead and do that. I'm sure a lot of people are here for this. So if you have a public comment in regards to anything on the agenda, now's the time to come up. Just come on up to the mic and state your name and address, and Ms. Hirschberger will put the 5 minutes on.
Hi, my name is Bob Potter, 1518 West Temperance Road. I guess 2 points here. One, I think it's a good idea to establish some kind of a zoning ordinance. There's other townships in Monroe County that you might want to look at to maybe model something after, but that would standardize the approach that, I don't know if it's too late for this company, but the approach for other projects down the road. And the other thing is the end of use. The presentation mentioned preserving ag. Well, during the time all these panels are in place, you can't really use it for ag. But after the lease arrangement, I don't know if it's 30 years or whatever, but after that lease arrangement, in order to return it to ag, somebody's got to pay to remove all this stuff. So, I mean, if you look at that, if you've seen the facility over at Stearns and Dixie, there's a lot of equipment and pedestals and stuff like that that would have to be taken back out in order to return that to ag use. And it's important that some money be set aside somehow to pay for that. So anyway, those are the two items that I had. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, next comment. And remember, this is for anything on the agenda item, so you can talk about anything else as well.
My name is Bill Decker Sr., live at 1951 West Erie Road, and I'm the owner of Decker Homes, a energy-efficient home building company that installs solar and geothermal systems for many of our home buyers. I'd just like to make a few comments about the solar development and our experience with solar. Our company installed our first solar system in Bedford Township in 2002, 19 years ago, and we've been doing that ever since. And we've yet to have any system fail, and we've yet to have any complaints from any home buyer. This is the first solar development system that's been applied for in Bedford, but it's far from the first in Monroe County. The Monroe County Community College has a system. The sisters, I believe it's the St. Mary's in Monroe, they have a system. I've visited both places, and they have for several years. So it's new here, but it's as was mentioned, it's growing across the state, and I'm happy to hear that Bedford is exploring the issue. And in answer to your question about after the 30 years and renewing taking out the equipment or whatever, they have in this documents, I read it thoroughly, that issue has been part of their presentation, or she will verify that. That impressed me. It's not like a coal-fired power plant that has that's ash that gets buried in the ground and they close the plant, and then someone's got to pay for it. But that's been taken care of, and Mitsubishi is a great company. They got great backing, and I'm positive that it's a good company. And again, I've reviewed all these documents that you just received. We're doing a project at Jackman and Erie Roads. We've got a couple systems there. We've got one net zero home, meaning that the home produces as much as it consumes. I've got an office with a 8 kilowatt system on it. I've not had an electric bill since we installed the system. And 80% of the people that come in my office, and it's right on the front, and we start talking about solar, and I said, you see our solar system on the front of the office? And they say no. Well, you drive in, I don't know how you can miss it, but it's not like it dominates the building. And we've had great experience with it with our home buyers, and it's something that's needed for multiple reasons in Bedford, I believe, and I think it's time that Bedford has a system when other communities throughout the state are doing that. It's in the news I get 10 newsletters a day, and it's in there every day about new systems going in, including the one that was mentioned there at Dixie Highway and Stearns Road. Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Traverse City are huge hotbeds in solar development and energy efficiency, and have been too for many years. Most of our military bases, including the Toledo National Guard, have solar installations similar to this development. and that solar installation that Toledo Express has been in for about 10 years. So it's not new to the area. Also, the University of Toledo has a system, Monroe County Community College, and as I said, the sisters, which I followed very closely for years there in Monroe, I thought I was a leader. They had a lot to show me. They were amazing people in those sisters. But anyway, I reviewed the documents. I strongly support the company that wants to install this system. I think they covered every base, and it would be a good thing for Bedford. I've got to leave because I got a sick person at home I got to attend to, but I appreciate the letting me give my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any more comments from the public?
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. I want to talk about the solar panel project here. Everybody believes in renewable energy in view of climate change and fossil fuels and CO2 and all the other issues that come along. This is sort of like apple pie and a Chevrolet in every garage. But I'm just using the information they provided that I saw on the website today. And we find out I make the following observations. One, the site selection. There's no zoning in this township for solar panel farms, and so they have to go through the process of getting the proper zoning. And this is a unique use in a unique corner of our township. The proposal utilizes nearly a full section of the township. 500 acres is nearly a full section. New revenue. We hear that every time. Everybody comes in, look at this new revenue you're going to get. We get less than $1 million at the township level. Now, that does not mean that the rest of the school doesn't get something, and the county doesn't get something, and the library doesn't get it. But locally, less than $1 million. And so I think you people need to look into this to make sure this is it. Create jobs. Every project comes in, we're going to create jobs. Take a look at Wisconsin. We're going to make a lot of jobs, and the outfit walked away with less than half the jobs. Mississippi. We're going to build all kinds of auto plants and lots of jobs. That does not mean that these jobs for this facility would not be some high-tech jobs, but there are going to be some low-tech jobs too. And they're temporary, because once this facility is up and running, you don't need a lot of people to run it. In fact, Bill, I wish I would have put solar panels on my house when I built it. The power purchase agreement, it's way down the line. It's late in the program. Well, I would think that you would want to know that they have a power purchase agreement in place before you go through the zoning, before you do any further investigation of this thing. You got something that you have in your hand to make this project sustainable. If you went, Rick, you'll know this. You go to the CEO of a company and you tell him, I got this great project. It's going to cost some money up front. And we got to go through a lot of governmental action. And it'll be all sunk costs if it doesn't work. What are we selling? In this case, you're selling renewable energy. Well, do you have a purchase agreement from somebody? Not yet. They throw you out on your ear. No business would say, I have a product to sell, how much you're going to sell it for, and what's it going to cost. You know what it's going to cost to put this together. But if you don't know what you're selling or how much you're selling it for, this is just for people to look into this. This is not to say that this shouldn't go forward, but look into it. Make sure you understand what's next. Land lease payments, that's how this works, at least in many places. You go to the farmer and say, I want to lease your land. I want to lease it for 30 years. Just grab a time. I'll make the following payments, provided And there's always this proviso in there, because I've seen them. Provided that the project continues for the time period that we have talked about. And further, if my return on investment is good, is what I expect. Because if you don't have your return on your investment, you have decreasing concentric circles into the poorhouse. Again, I think these sort of projects should be looked at by this township. I'm not saying you don't do it. What I'm saying is the information that I got off of the website would not lead me to support this thing at this time. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and maybe the supervisor's done a lot. I don't know what the rest of you have done. But you really need to look into this, because you're taking a whole section of the township and turning it into other than agricultural use, what it does today. So the tax return on this project versus what you get today should be looked at. Make sure that you have a good return on that. Because if you're making more money off of agricultural use than you're making off of this project, you should be looked at. One last comment. You're going to look at Quail Hollow lights tonight. The DDA has in their budget $500,000 for 2 lights. That's a lot of money. You better be looking into it to make sure that that's
Lamar, your
right
time
thing.
is up, buddy. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Okay. Okay. Next comment.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. I really wish we could do presentation and then do the 5-minute thing, but here we go. Regarding this solar, Mr. Decker spoke of it, but if you realize what he was talking about, each thing he described was an individual. This is not. This is a group of people who have chosen us for some reason, who do not want to have to go through the normal process in order to skip a step and then hopefully get pressured into making a decision tonight. Please don't do that. Please don't. You know, the world is in sad shape and people need to eat. And the only people that can provide food is the farmers. So we need to do just what that zoning calls for, preserve our farmland. Too much of it has been destroyed here. Do we want to feed a company or do we want to feed people? Have you checked with Tim Lake and the BDC and their opinion? See, there's no longer a county planning. Somebody decided that that was a good thing to skip too. So we don't have anybody giving us oversight. And we have an impact, we have a duty as a community to be careful of the impact we make on the surrounding communities. We're sitting on the corner of Ida Township and Erie Township, and those are farm heavy. I don't know that they would appreciate this scenic view that they were going to put up. And if they're going to have to take it down, I don't understand what we're doing, how we're going to keep this whole process if they're going to take it down in a little bit. And like Lamar said, you have to have somebody that's going to buy your product. And unless they can give that to you in writing up front, walk away. I've been told that's a warning, walk away. This is just very concerning to me. I don't oppose green energy. Let them come in and put a solar panel on every single household in this township. And then maybe we can talk some business. That would be doing this community a service. To take 500 plus acres and convert it into something. You go over here to Stearns, you don't see any pollinator plants. They could be growing cucumbers underneath those solar panels, but they're not. And furthermore, I tried to contact this company, so they may be able to get into a car and give off their gas emissions all the way here, but they don't answer their phones and they don't have their voicemail set up. So I'm concerned. As to number 2 on the agenda, the planning, I know there's some people out there that think that the fault of all this is lying on the board. It is not, at least not in my belief. And I would encourage the board to continue doing your due diligence and selecting an individual who is truly capable of learning and knowing and having the experience to sit on planning. Right here is a prime situation where the person that is being suggested tonight wouldn't have a clue to be able to how to handle this in the decision-making process. And there's other concerns, so I'll skip it because my voice was on this presentation. And as far as the governance, again, we have our little law here that we're supposed to worry about the rest of the townships that we impact. If you're going to put the governance in place, and I think it's a great idea, but we've had violations of this, almost every aspect of it, for the last 4 years. So if you're going to put it into place, you need to be willing to enforce it, because I can cite the violations of almost every single aspect of what's being presented tonight. And some of those are the Kodak moments that we have in this world. You know, there's certain people who want the attention and certain people who don't care. We're all looking to make a fast buck. I don't know. This township needs to make a turn back to what it used to be, and it really was based on a whole different level of people. That's all I can say. So please don't vote tonight. Push it through. Talk to Tim Lake. Really look at what you're going to impact with this. And there's a lot of people here who are relying on this for their livelihood and stuff. So thank you kindly.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Hello, my name is Teresa Pobi-Mensa. I live at 2147 Erie Road. I want to say that I grew up downriver. I didn't grow up with the glorious fields that you guys have here. And when I was in high school, my mom and dad, they moved us out to 5 acres. And I saw farm fields for the first time. And that was life-changing for me. And I know in your guys' presentation, you talked about, you're thinking about the long term. And when you talked about the long term, you talked about 5 years from now. And you were talking about the local faces that we wanted to see. Well, what I came to know when I moved here was the local faces of the Trabick family farms, who invited us out into their fields and let us pick pumpkins. I got to know the Stutzes and the Spots and the Keenies and BJs, and we go there every day, and that is something that I'd never experienced. And when I drive by the corner of Stearns, that's not what I want for my kids, to see a solar panel. I grew up and moved away. I went to college, and I became an assistant director of financial aid. I was fancy. And while I was doing that, I was right at the corner of Ohio and West Virginia, and fracking came to town. And that was the big thing. And it was a thrill, and it gave and there could be advantages to it. But what I saw happen is there was, again, like the one gentleman mentioned, the promise of money and the promise of jobs and to rescue the community. And as a director, or assistant director of financial aid, who I saw lose the most was the farmers. Because they sold everything, they gave everything they could, and they got these 1-minute big paydays. They paid an exorbitant amount in taxes, and their children lost. They lost the ability to go to college because they lost federal aid. And the hotels were constantly booked with out-of-town people coming in to do the jobs, and I still saw the people that were suffering before continue to suffer. But bigger than that, Bedford is beautiful because it has glorious upscale houses, but it has the glory of the farms, the orchards. It has things that have been around for 100, 200 years. And if we take away farming for 30 years, my children aren't going to get to go out into the fields and pick those pumpkins. And it's like, I don't own a big farm right now, but I would love to be there someday. And so it's like right now, we buy local from all of the local farmers that we know. We go 3-4 times. We buy from all the stands. If you take that away, he's not going to get to see those farms. He's not going to have an opportunity to experience those farms. And growing up downriver, it's like you get to see a lot of abandoned buildings and a lot of garbage of a great idea that didn't really pan out in the end. We have so much beauty in Bedford. Please don't turn it into solar panels like the corner of Stearns Road. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Ken Gagne, 8311 Lambert Street. I'm just going to kind of touch base on the last two people. The corner of Dixie and Stearns is 125 acres. They're talking about 800 acres. Now, I'm not going to really knock the project, but the thing is, when you remove 800 acres of agriculture, and you removed all this property over the last, I don't know, 15, 20 years that I've been around here, Erie is not going to generate enough food to feed everybody in Bedford. And Someday you're not going to get it out of the south and the east and the west. And what are you going to do to heat? You go down to Secor and Smith, you could not drive a golf cart between some of them houses and the neighbor's air conditioner. And I don't know why you want to do that. Last year, the corner of Jackman and Erie was nothing but corn. Now it's a half a dozen houses going up. I think we either got to stop some of this housing or we got to put a limit on the size of the property. I don't think there should be a house built on less than a half acre. That's my decision, and it'll always be that way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
My name is Mary Tisdes. My address is 7341 Geiger Road. When the guy talked about the solar in the office and the homes, and just like the other woman said, that's not noticeable. It's on a home, you know? So like every house can do that. When you put a farm field of these solar panels, you've completely changed the look of the land, completely. And they're talking about, what they're talking about doing is surrounding homes with these. You have a home surrounded by farm fields. Now it's going to be surrounded by these solar panels. Guess what? Their value just went down. Nobody's going to buy that home. So taxes, you talk about, you know, nobody's going to buy that home. That completely changes the value. And yeah, nobody likes driving by Erie and seeing that. That's not beautiful. When we first saw it, we're like, what is that? What is it? You know what I mean? It's not pleasing. And I'm sure that these solar people do not have those farms around their homes. They don't. They're coming to our beautiful place and saying, let's buy your farmland. And like the other folks said, folksy people, they like to call us folks when they want to take our land. I don't own the land either, but I also came from the city. And there's nothing more beautiful than just looking out my window at that beautiful farm field. It's like one of my greatest blessings to see that. But this is just another example of them paying farmers not to grow. Paying farmers not to grow. We need farmers to grow. This is just going to make us more dependent. We need to be independent. And I'm not a farmer, but I know that anyone who is a farmer, you shut down your farm for 30 years, they're not going to be able to start it back up. These kids are grown. They have to get jobs. They're gone. Where's the equipment? You know, if you're not going to use it for 30 years, it's going to sit and rust somewhere. It's not going to just start back up in 30 years. That's not going to happen. I've heard that these panels are hot, that they're dangerous, they're solar, they're bringing things in. These are in people's backyards. The one over on Erie is not, but what they're proposing is, it's right on my street. My friend's house would literally be surrounded by it. I've heard that if they come in, that they have to get their own fire protection for these things because they can catch on fire. You know, so then this is, you know, it's, I don't know about it, but that's what I've heard they need, and I'm sure they're not safe. Just like when cigarettes came out and they had the glorious commercials and it was all beautiful and wonderful, it caused cancer. I'm not so sure that these aren't dangerous in some way. I don't know that they have, you know, they don't know the long-term effects of these, putting it in your backyard, you know. Let's see. I think that's about it. The other thing was that, yeah, to think that this decision is a huge decision to make just in one night. I would hope that you folks would think about that.
Okay. Thank you so much for your comments. Okay, next comment.
Hi, my name is Andrea Allen.
Can you talk closer to the mic? That way the public can hear us. You can lift it up and bring it. You can. That way you don't have to bend over. There you go.
We have a business in Temperance. We live in Erie, and our kids go to Ida. We have farmed for years and years. I grew up with a family that farmed. We own farmland. We have been approached, my family has, by solar companies. And I just really, I mean, the same thing everybody has said. I mean, we're talking about a ton of land, beautiful, beautiful farmland, rich in supplying food for our community. I really get concerned, especially more so in the last year and a half, of what the end goal is with all of this. Is it to eliminate the small family farm? Is it to depend on big corporations? I mean, is that part of the plan with all this? I also, I haven't done a lot of research on it, but this is something that I think we should research, is what this does to the farmland. So if in fact it is removed after 25, 30 years and these companies have not gone bankrupt, because you can have anything you want written up, they can tell you everything they want to tell you, they can write down what we're saying and come up with real fancy responses to it. But in 30 years when they're gone and all that junk that's in people's fields and they have to try to pay to remove it and they can't, then what are we going to do? Same thing when everybody thought it was so great to have the wind turbines. First of all, they're a fortune. They're made overseas. You can't dispose of them. It's not a good idea. You know, so I'm concerned about it frying the farm fields that you're not going to be able to grow anything after. You're not going to have people there to grow it after 30 years. If they get damaged, what are they leaching into our water supply? You know, I mean, these types of things, do they give off radiation, electromagnetic radiation like the cell phone towers? I don't know. I haven't done enough research. But I really urge whoever is voting on this and everybody involved to do that research, because that's extremely serious. I mean, all of those things, I mean, that can cause cancer cells in the area and everything else. And not to mention just destroying everybody's property values. And I mean, this is a huge, huge chunk of land that I drive by every day and my kids do, and it would be just heartbreaking to see solar panels all over the place. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. We appreciate it.
Hello, I'm Justin Bates, 7279 Bent Creek Drive. I am also the chair of the Bedford Green Initiative Committee, and I work in the solar industry. So I was kind of excited to see this come to our township as an opportunity to the board. I hope you keep an open mind about what they're proposing here today. As somebody else said, this is maybe the first time this has come to us, but it won't be the last. There are a lot of these things going on in the community in the Midwest. There's a lot of solar systems in and around town. Look around Toledo, look around the outskirts around the community. This is coming, and they don't have to be unsightly, right? Look at Overland Parkway over by the Dana plant. There's some pretty nice looking panels over there. There are local people that are Bedford residents, like myself, that work in renewables, that work at solar companies. Okay, so they have an in on this. Remember, the Bedford Green Initiative Committee mission statement is to promote conservation and sustainability in Bedford Township in order to assure a clean and healthy environment for future generations. When it comes to farmland, I understand we have one problem. We don't have a way of zoning it, right? So that seems like an archaic thing that should be taken into consideration to at least allow for this conversation in the future, if not for this project, for others, right? If this thing doesn't make financial sense for the township, I say don't do it, right? Look at it, make sure that it makes sense. But that's what these guys are here to show you and prove that, hey, this will make financial sense for you, and here's what we're trying to do. This is a large project. It's not a small project, but this is kind of the trend, right? A lot of solar projects are getting this large all around the area. There are big missions that these energy companies have, as I mentioned. They're going to get there. Michigan, Ohio, the Midwest, it's coming, right? We can be part of it. As far as land turned over at the end of life, there are a lot worse things you can sell your land to than a solar system. You could zone it for residential housing. It could be for a strip mall or something, right? What happens to that land at the end? It's a lot more work to pull that out than it is to pull a few pylons out of the ground, and the soil is pretty much not really disturbed at all. Nothing's leaching out of it. This is safe, renewable energy. There's many, many research papers that state the same. Happy to run you guys through that if you would like at another time. I guess the only other thing I would say is to remember to keep an open mind. This has got to go to the Planning Commission. These farmlands, they've already procured land. So it's not like we're the township saying, hey, sell all this land. We want to sell all this land to these guys. They've already procured the land. Somebody already made the deal to sell some of this stuff. They're not taking the land now from the farmers, right? They have to go make the deal. Someone along the line made the choice to sell that land. Whether they use it for this or they use it for who knows what, there could be a lot worse things that it could be sold for. So just want to put that out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more comments?
My name is Maureen Spots. I live at 503 East Samaria in the thick of the solar fields. My husband's farmed since he was old enough to walk, probably, riding a tractor with his dad. And I can't imagine the impact that this is going to have on my family, because if there's no farmland to farm, we can't farm. And I don't, as of right now, I don't know too many farmers who solely farm as it is. They have other jobs, but I can tell you that we spend a lot of money locally buying chemicals from other farmers who are dealers, or, you know, we take our grain to the Ottawa Lake Co-op, the Ida Co-op. We buy and purchase things there, parts locally. I can't imagine how that would affect all of those businesses. Not to mention, the community college is, the solar panels are behind it. If you don't go back there, you would not know they were there. We're not talking about something that can be hidden. If that solar field over in Erie is hidden, there's no way. There's a few trees. They'll never be big enough to cover that mess. And it is a mess. Weeds to the top of the solar panels. It's just a farmer's nightmare. One of the reasons that land can't be farmed because there's solar panels over it is the heat, which somebody mentioned. But you can't get machinery under there. You can't plant 100 acres of cucumbers without a machine. You can't do it. I think we've done a lot of work in Bedford to make it a beautiful place for many families. And I feel bad for the farmers who've had to sell off their frontage for homes, but that's what it's come to. They're struggling. There's a lot of them that are struggling, and the last thing they need is to have solar panels put on their farms. But it's, you know what, it's all about money. That's exactly what it is. And I can tell you this too. We don't farm just our property that we own. We would be done already. We lease a lot of land, and we cannot compete with the prices they're offering these landowners as rent. We can't do it. There's just no way. And I have to believe that there would be a whole lot less farmers offering up their land than just people who own some land. They have the money and they're going to make more. It's all about money. So, you know, there's one thing they didn't talk about was recycling. And I've done some internet research on some of this stuff. And, you know, we get a big storm or, you know, hail. We get a lot of snow up here in Michigan. How well are those working? And why Michigan? We don't have the sun that they have in Arizona or, you know, somewhere where it's sunny year-round. We don't. But I can tell you part of that, too. And I did see a map that shows that the energy costs where there's solar are far higher than where there isn't solar because they can't store it. There's no way, just like wind, they can't store the energy. So when it overproduces, they have to sell it. The company that's the consumers or whoever are, you know, your utility company might be, has to charge their customers to get rid of it. And then there's health issues too. Those solar panels, they, I got the words here because I can't remember. Tetrachloride is something that those solar panels have inside of them. So we get a crack or, you know, no one's going to be monitoring those, you know, to see, you know, is there a crack? Is there anything leaking out of them? It's why the landfill doesn't want them. They can't, you know, I don't know how they're going to get rid of them. And they have a life expectancy too. 20 to 25 years. Funny, that's what their contract is. 20 to 25 years. How fast do you think they'll come out and remove those when they're absolutely worthless after a 20 or 25-year contract? You know, I could go on. I just encourage all of you to do some research on solar. Just really think about the impact this is going to have on your farmers. I beg you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public?
Hi, my name is Christine Stafka, and I live on 1008 Rauch Road. So again, this would be my yard, and my whole life would be surrounded by these panels. One of the things that they mentioned, several people came up here and mentioned, like, a lot of places are looking into this, a lot of places are doing this, and some of the cities they mentioned are Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, Toledo. Anyone who's been to Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, or Toledo knows that Bedford is not Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, or Toledo. And I would say that most people who live in Bedford are very, very glad that they don't live there. What draws people to Bedford is the fact that you have space, you have beauty, you have families. You have families living there, you have families that have been living there, you have families moving in because it's beautiful. It's not a city, it's not built up. At the very least, why would we change the agriculture land and let these be brought in? At the very least, industrial could be considered, but not agriculture. That's insane. That is what makes Bedford what it is. We don't want to be Toledo. We don't want to be Ann Arbor. It's nuts. Another thing, they talk about how much power this is going to give, but they don't say where this power is going. 18,000 homes. That's not our homes. Where is it going? Do we know where it's going? Do they know where it's going? If you put a solar panel on your house, that's your decision. It affects your home, and it powers your home. We don't know anything about that. Another thing, this enormous chunk of land that would be everything I look at, everything my neighbors look at, is a drop in the bucket to them. They look at that square that is our whole life, and they say, that's not enough land. We're pushing to get more. We're looking to get more. But what that land is enough could sustain 1 or 2 family farms that provide income and livelihood and a lifestyle for many, many, many people. Another thing, comparing it to houses or strip malls, I can tell you one thing. I don't want the farmland built up, but I sure as heck would rather see a neighborhood than be looking at a field of solar panels. That is not the same at all. My final point would be this. 30 years is a long time. It's a long lease, which I find curious that they don't want to buy the land because they can smile at you and say, no, you can have it back. When we ruin it, you can have it back. They don't know what's going to happen in 30 years to your land, to your well, to your sky, to your air. They don't know. I bought granite that has a 15-year warranty, and I was asking questions about it, and they said, you know, ma'am, the granite we're making and selling you has not been around 15 years, so to be painfully honest, we don't know what will happen. So we're throwing 15 years out because we're willing to guarantee it for 15 years. And I kind of feel like this smile guarantee is the same sort of thing. They look at you and smile and say, in 30 years, we'll touch base because you'll be dead, your kids will be grown, and they'll be sitting there, and the land will be ruined. That's all.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name is Robert Glenn. I'm at 10676 Jackman. I moved back here 4 years ago. I grew up in Bedford. So one of the things that we battled, we lived in Ogden when the wind farms became big. And that's kind of where I see this going. The wind farms were kind of like the same thing where once they were done, the blades broke, there was no way to get rid of them. you would have had these towers all over the place that it was very costly to get rid of. You didn't know what they were going to really do to the land, the animals, nature, wildlife, and what it was going to take to get rid of them at the end. So I think everybody that's talked has brought up the concerns of what is our long-term goal with this and what are our potentials. Now, I know the process to make these solar panels is very dangerous due to the chemicals that are put into them. So if there is a potential for leaching, everyone in this area, at least on the northern part of town, lives off of wells. I know there are proposals to put city water there, but what is the potential for us to get these chemicals that are in these solar panels into our drinking water, bring it into our homes, or the effects on us from anything that they emit, the heat from them. And the other thing is, honestly, the view. I drive by Stearns every day, and it's hideous. From a township perspective, I know friends that the township has made friends put up buildings or fences to make their property look better. And their property looked better than Stearns Road did before you guys made them put up a fence or a building to store their toys or clean up their lawns or the yards. So let's keep that in mind when we're looking at the future of Bedford, how we really want this to look, and what we're doing to our community, our people, and our wells, our livelihood, our water, our natural resources that are here. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. Does anybody else have a public comment? Because, Ms. Tisdale.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. This is in regards to agenda item 7A, appointment to the Planning Commission. I've lived in this community for 40 years. Never ceases to amaze me the number of people that want to serve on different committees and different projects in this community that have talents and expertise and energy, and they want to share that with this community. We haven't been able to appoint somebody to the zoning commission or to the planning commission now for 9 months. Mr. Peroni has brought people to this board here, and every one of them has been rejected. I hope this doesn't discourage people from wanting to serve in the future. I know one thing, after seeing all these people rejected who I believe are qualified people to be on this committee or this commission, I'm sure I'd want to put my name down, to be perfectly honest with you. Actually, it's pretty discouraging. I voted for everyone on this board. Maybe have to rethink that the next election. There's no reason why Mr. Peroni, who's brought people to this board, qualified people to be on this planning commission, why one of these 11 people or 10 people, how many it's been now, has been rejected. They all seem to be qualified. They all seem to want to give their time and their energy and their expertise and to be on this, and even get people to want to be considered again after there have been so many people have been rejected. I think that's a kudos to those people that put their names in. I ran for sheriff here in Monroe County because I cared about the people here, and it's obvious that the people that want to serve on this planning commission care about this community. We have a great place here in Bedford Township. I'd like to see somebody here get someone on this planning commission in the near future. I think delaying it is really a detriment to this community and a detriment to this board. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? So once I bring the solar people back up, public comment is over. So if anybody else has anything they'd like to say, now would be the time. So, okay, come on back up. And I'm sure you guys have a whole lot of questions you have to answer. So. We just need to give comments to the chair too. So approach the chair. Don't talk to the public.
Okay.
Just so you know, it's better that way. So.
No, I just wanted to first off say thank you to the board for allowing us to come up here to kind of present our initial concept of a project. I think it was our intention really to just seek some feedback, really introduce this project to you guys, really understand, if this is amenable. And also to let you know, when we say we are from Pittsburgh, that is where we are from, but we are also, we like to pride ourselves as being part of the community. So it's our intention, like we are very early in this project. As Marla mentioned, it's really like a 3 to 5 year development life cycle for a project of this size. So we're at the stages of just trying to feel out the community, making sure we're partnering with the community to address their concerns. And luckily, everything I heard tonight really are concerns that are heard for most projects. And I think they are able to be addressed. And that's the main takeaway that I'd like.
Can you come closer to the mic, please?
Yes. Is this better?
Oh, you don't have to be that close, but
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit closer. That way we can hear you.
Yeah. So I think what I would just want to communicate is like a lot of the concerns that we heard tonight will be addressed by our company, and I can commit to that. Whether that's vegetative buffer, whether that's setting back further. When we say 800 acres, what we really mean, and for a project of this size, is usually around 5 acres per megawatt. So we usually try to contract for site control and much more than we need, so that we can set back from residences.
How many acres per megawatt did you say?
It depends on the engineering of the project, but the rough estimate is about 5 acres per megawatt. So usually you try to get more land than is necessary so that you can accommodate a lot of concerns from the community, so it doesn't become an eyesore, so that we can address the visual impact of the project. Just going down the line, I think what we were not intending for this to be a full-on vote tonight. We were just intending to present the project and start the conversation. So it is our intention that we do not want to go spend a ton of time and energy and money into this project if this is a non-starter. But really, we're just simply trying to figure out what is your initial feeling, your gut feeling for this. To address the end of use, we did include a frequently asked questions list in this presentation that we didn't address in the presentation.
Let me just be clear on something you just said. So when I asked for the board to vote, it's not to vote to do an ordinance change. This is to vote, or not even, we don't have to vote, we could table it, but this is just to kind of give the nod to the planning commission to say, hey, this is something we would be behind.
Great.
Or you're going to get the feeling tonight that you might as well walk out the door.
Yep.
Because it's either, hey, can you guys, please? So this isn't a vote to say, hey, we're going to do an ordinance change. This is just kind of just to say, hey, let's pursue the process for planning to not waste your time.
Understood.
Because that's happened in the past where you go through months of planning and it gets here and we say no.
Yeah.
And you wasted a lot of time and money.
No, that's a
so that isn't a vote to say, hey, we're going to do an amendment change and start the process. It's to give you, because after tonight, if you get a bad feeling from us, you can still go through the process as normal. You're just probably not going to end up with the results you want in the end.
Well, that's ultimately what we're
so, but
trying
you
to-
can, that's all this is tonight.
Gotcha. Thank
So,
you for
I
that
just wanted to be very
clarification.
clear.
Yep. And I think we're just trying to make sure that we get that feeling and we can make a correct decision. So very much appreciate that. To address a couple specific concerns from the community, end of life of the solar project. So solar projects are roughly 30 to 40 years for their useful lives. Oregon will commit to posting financial security, via what is called a decommissioning bond that does set aside a fund of money to accommodate for removal and restoration of the project and the land to its original use. So that is something that is committed to, that is very common within the industry, that Oregon will commit to for this project as well, a full-blown decommissioning bond of the project. So that money is there for the community knows that, let's just say we went bankrupt, which, again, that our financial backer, Mitsubishi, that would be a very bad day for us. But there will be that money set aside for this project. I think the other comment that was made was a PPA and why you guys, the board, should not consider this project before a power
Quick
purchase.
response to what you just said. So
Yes.
what if Mitsubishi sells?
That decommissioning bond would stay with the project. So this
So
project.
it's only if they were to go bankrupt is where the decommissioning funds would be gone.
And you guys would have the right to call on that bond and be able to pull down those funds.
Okay.
Yep. There was also a comment around power purchase agreements and why the board should not consider the project in advance of a power purchase agreement being held by the project. So unfortunately, the way the industry works is most projects don't get built unless there are PPAs. So PPAs, because the legislation in Michigan is at the state level is saying, hey, we would love to reach some renewables targets within the state. There's a bunch of other developers, including Oregon, as well as other solar developers that come in here and try to site projects. So what happens is we have to create not only a lower cost of energy for each project, but also the certainty that a project will move forward. And part of that certainty for DTE or consumers to come to us and say, hey, we'd like to buy your power, is that they know that the local community and the authority having jurisdiction, such as yourselves, would be interested in permitting the project. So if we can demonstrate that there is a permit for the project as well as feasible interconnection, then those utilities are more likely going to say, hey, we want to buy your power from this specific project. So it kind of works backwards, where we have to prove the feasibility of the project before the contract actually is achieved. Okay. I think there was another comment about monitoring the project, and what Oregon can commit to is that we will have an operation and maintenance program in place that includes vegetative maintenance as well as asset management that monitors the performance of this project. There will also be 2 to 3 full-time jobs where it is their responsibility to let us know if anything is going wrong. The industry itself has very much been able to demonstrate that performance monitoring will find flaws in the project that need to be addressed so that the performance of the project is not impacted, so that it meets its contractual commitments and its permitting commitments to the board as well as whoever does buy that project. So we can commit to both O&M and what is called asset management to make sure that this project is attended to for the entirety of its life. And that is required by financing community, by everybody, to be able to actually build this project. I think another comment that I would like to address is the recycling. So the solar industry is relatively young, but it's not that young. It's been around since the 1970s. Recycling, these panels do not. They actually have a second life, and the warranty from the manufacturers is 25 years, but the useful life of these projects is close to 35. And as in the frequently asked questions that we provided with the materials, these panels are sometimes repurposed, and they can generate electricity at roughly 80% of what the nameplate capacity of the panel was at the beginning at year 1 of the project. So it is highly likely that the panels will be recycled completely, and all the materials in the panel are also recycled. So 90 to 95%, if the panels were not recycled to a new project, would be completely recyclable and decommissioned appropriately so that there is no waste. The other comment that I would like to make is on waste and leaching into the environment. These panels are protected by an enclosed glass casing, which really is stronger than your windshield. The technology in solar, if there is hailstorms, if there is something that could damage these panels, they are able to stow at a certain angle so that the hail would not impact it, so that the glass does not break. I think there has been really no instances where there is leaching into the environment from crystalline silicon panels, which are proven to be safe within the industry. So with that, I think hopefully I've addressed most of the community's concerns. But again, we're here to really just start the conversation. We want to educate as much as we can over time, and really we want to be, have you guys have our contact information so that we can continue this conversation and make sure that as concerns are raised, that we're able to address them and make sure we're being a partnership with the community in itself.
Well, I did talk to Erie Township. Mike Dempsey, he kind of oversaw a lot of the project in Erie Township. And I just kind of asked some of the pros and cons that they've had with their project and tax revenues that the township actually sees, not goes to the state, because we only see about 1.2% of our taxes stay here, so it's not much.
Yep.
And he said a lot of it was the maintenance. It seems to be let go, a lot of trees dying. When you drive by, you not only see the solar field, but then you see a lot of overgrowth and a lot of dead trees. So you're saying a lot of that would be kept up on with the maintenance people in place.
Yeah, sure. So our O&M would have a specific, what we call a vegetative maintenance plan, where we would require that grasses could not grow larger than 24 inches high. We would also, try to create pollinator-friendly habitats that are regenerative for the soils, so that the farmland is capable of, going back into farming operation at the end of the useful life. So it's our complete intent to make sure that it looks nice, it's kept up well, and it has all of the contractual items in place that make this a success for the community.
So the other question I asked him was taxes. So say all 500 acres are up and running in 5 years out of the 800 that you acquire. What would be the tax revenue the township would actually see from that?
So we would have to go through that analysis with yourself. So we'll have to, speak with your local assessor, do a full-blown tax analysis. I do know that there was recent legislation that was going through the Senate last year with regards to a payment in lieu of taxes, which was a set rate of X dollars per megawatt that would go to the authorities having jurisdiction and the taxes.
Well, give me a past experience you've had with a farm. What is some?
Yeah, so for instance, we've done projects in New York where we have to pay $3,000 per megawatt for per year for the full life of the project, and then we also have to pay what is called a host community agreement. So that would be specific money set aside specifically for this township. So in addition to the taxes, we would pay.
So what is on the lower end you've seen? Because
that really depends, but it can be. It's all based on where your project is. What are the economics of the project that create that optimal price of electricity that DTE and consumers will want to offer you that PPA. Because if you're not competitive with other projects in the state, then there's no project. So we try to find that optimal point. And I guess to answer your question directly, usually a host community agreement would be anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per megawatt.
Okay.
Per year.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the board for questions.
Questions? No, I'll get on this real
Okay,
quick.
Mr. Gore.
I mean, you guys
Mr.
busy
Gore.
enough to make the
Hey, Todd.
presentation.
Mr. Bruning. Mr. Gore, go ahead.
Hi. So, first of all, appreciate you coming here and showing interest in our community. I want to know how you got here. You just didn't throw a dart at a map and come up with Bedford Township. You've had boots on the ground here for a little bit.
Yep.
If you've already purchased or leased property, how did that come about?
That's a great question. And so what we try to do is we try to find an optimal place for solar development. And there's really a couple things the two main things that go into that are where does the sun shine the most and where can we get our power up onto the grid? So if those two things, you guys, Bedford Township, southeast portion of Michigan, so if DTE and consumers are looking for in-state resources, this is the sunniest portion of Michigan.
But how did you get here?
Hey, guys.
You
Miss
didn't answer the
King,
question.
can we
How did
please
you
keep
get
it down? We were very quiet for public comments. Let them do their presentation, and we'll hear them out, and we'll move forward.
Who
Please.
reached out to you?
So we have internal experts in our company, like Geographic Information Systems, where we run a land campaign, and we identify sites based on certain criteria. So the first is where does the sun shine within the geographic footprint that we're seeking. The second is where can we get the power up onto the grid. So we've studied that line, the 138 kV line that's adjacent to this project area, and that 138 kV line does have capacity for this size of project.
So nobody from Bedford Township reached out? I'm not talking from the board or supervisor or anything, but no developer or anything reached
Nope.
out to you to bring in or anything like that?
No. I mean, this is the first, we wanted to introduce the project early, and that's
how
it.
long have you been here? If you've been going door to door, I mean, that is a large area
Mhm.
that we're talking about, and you had to procure property. So how long have you been in the township going door to door?
So we've been active in the township for a few months. Yep.
Okay, and a few, 2, 3, 6?
Yeah, I'd say 3 to 6 months.
3
But
to
normally we wouldn't present the project until we have interest from the landowner that this is indeed something that they'd like to pursue.
And so who currently owns the property? Is there various homeowners, property owners? You just cold call them technically?
Yeah, so
knock on the door?
the way we would approach a landowner is we would provide a mailing to a landowner with information about our company, what we're seeking to achieve, and then ask for a phone call, and that's how we kind of start the conversation. So this landowner, Mr. Perrin, is probably the anchor tenant, is what we would consider. So again, we don't have full site control at this point. We're just starting this project, and again, seeking some initial guidance.
So, and what I'm thinking is you put up this solar field, create property, it goes out on the grid.
Hey, Joe,
and-
can you talk into your mic
Oh,
or get it closer?
I'm sorry. There we go. So you actually get it sold, you sell it.
Yep.
To make money.
That's right.
But that power potentially could not even affect Bedford Township, Toledo, or anything like that.
Well, it is fair to say that I can't tell you where the power goes once it gets up onto the grid. The power moves, electricity moves at the speed of light. So normally electricity will flow towards a load center, which is Detroit, Toledo, basically flow down to those cities because that's where the lights are getting switched on. What I can say is having a local generation source is very beneficial because when you have a local generation source, if there is something that happens on the grid, whether a huge storm rolls through, a tornado, if you have a local generation source and they have to shut down some line that's I don't know, 5 miles away, but you have 2 substations and your project's in between, you can keep the light on, with as long as it's safe from consumers or DTE, whoever operates that line, they're able to say, okay, you guys have a local source, let it run.
And you guys, your company's been in business since 2019, 2 years, startup company.
Yep.
Okay, kudos for starting up a company. But with startup companies, they can easily be bought, can't they? Or you can end up sell. You guys came into some of the township, offered some money, and people were leasing. It doesn't mean to say that a bigger company can't come to your company and buy you guys out 4 or 5 years after you build it up, and where does that leave us?
Yeah, so I think that is absolutely true. Companies get bought and sold all the time. I think the way to think about this project is a company in itself, because we are not going to build this project unless it has every single contractual agreement that allows it to operate on a standalone basis. So anytime a company wants to come buy this project, they're going to underwrite it and say, have you done this correctly? And if you haven't, they're not going to buy it. But I think to answer your question about can our company be sold, I think we were started 2 years ago by a Mitsubishi Power, which is a gas turbine company. So they build heavy duty gas turbines, and they basically realized all these combined cycle gas turbine projects that basically our electric system is based off of. No one wants them anymore. All the utilities are not they're retiring their coal facilities. They're not seeking gas. They're trying to hit these renewables targets. So they basically asked 7 of us to start this company. And, I've been doing this for about 12 years. But the management team that we have at Orden, we are with a company that, Mitsubishi is known for being very methodical in its approach and how once they commit, as is the Japanese way, they commit wholeheartedly. So, it's our hope that, we are in this for the long run. But to answer your question, projects are bought and sold, so are companies.
And the last thing I have is I've heard what the majority of the people out here are saying. 500, 800 acres, that's a lot of property.
Yeah.
That is a huge commitment. And when I look at this picture in your presentation of the solar field, it's probably not even a fraction of that size. I have no interest in having that in my township right now. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments from board members?
Yeah, I was next.
Go ahead, Mr. Breen.
Like I said, we could have saved you a lot of time.
Well, hold on. Speak for yourself, not the whole board.
So, like when I go through Erie, well, I go down Stearns Road, I hit Erie. That's the ugliest monstrosity I've ever have to look at. I'm so glad it's not in Bedford. And now here we are coming to Bedford. Whoever voted for that in Erie should all be recalled. So, like you said, your fact-finding mission right now, I have 3 more years on this board. I will not support it for 3 more years. I think it's hideous. And Mr. Decker said, someone who wants this, they can put it on their own house. We don't need 500 acres of solar panels. I think it's horrible. I'm done.
Okay. Any more, Mr. Steiner?
So I had a host of notes.
Just Mr. Steiner, just to be fair to the board, if other board members do have some, you could do 4 or 5 comments, but let's just keep it flowing if other board members want to say something too, because we don't want
I'll get through my notes.
time. Go ahead, buddy.
First one, what really picked up on, generally pays property taxes. Why would the word generally be in there? That's in your presentation. What does generally mean? You do, you don't, maybe, generally they pay?
That's just based on the authority having jurisdiction. So if the local assessor requires, property taxes to be paid, that will be paid.
So in other words, just saying it generally means if the assessor doesn't say you pay much, you don't pay it. Other than that, you pay it.
No, we would work with Bedford Township to assess the tax implications of the project, and whatever those implications are, we would ensure that they are paid.
So basically, like I said, if the assessor says you guys have to pay this much, then you pay this much. And again, it said the revenues support schools, including services, police, fire, and senior services. Again, that would have to go all through the tax base. Under your project development, you are the project developer. So is Mitsubishi actually going to undertake the project itself, or do you do that?
I would do it. So we, as Orden, would develop the project using the funds provided by Mitsubishi.
Okay, so they're basically your funding mechanism. Yep. Okay. I know it drew a little bit of a laugh, and I'm not a scientist to do the research, but it was interesting to say that this is the sunniest area in Michigan. I agree that you're probably the closest between 2 major power players, but to be the sunniest, I don't know about that part of it. My big thing is, and somebody brought up something similar, is the infrastructure. So much of the aging grid in this country today, you can't store it. Today that we hear about, we're going to build all these charging stations for all these electric cars. Right now, the electric cars, to build them is creating as many CO2 emissions as it is to build a regular car, up to, I think it's a 7-year period before you start to see that taper off. A lot of people are getting rid of cars after 7. Now, electric car, maybe they won't, but again, the thing with solar stations and solar power stations, we don't have the capacity to store this energy. It's not there. And I'm not completely against this, don't get me wrong, but I want to see how we're going to do these things before we say, oh yeah, we're just going to do these things because we'll find a way to store it. We got to have a way to distribute that energy. As we said, if you generate the power, it goes up to consumers, it goes to DTE, and as you said though, it might go to Detroit, it might go to Toledo, it could go to Ann Arbor. I want to know how much is going to come right back here to Bedford Township, but you guys can't tell that because that's the power agreement. And again, they're going to sell it to us, the consumer, basically for whatever they feel the regulatory, agencies are going to let them sell it to us for. Being a project of this size, I would hope that there's a way to make it a benefit. If Bedford wanted it, say, well, okay, show me how my electric bill is going to go down $25 a month or $30 a month. That's something that I don't think anybody's willing to commit to. It was brought up on the return on investment. You guys, I'm sure that you have a board of directors to go to as well.
You go in, you say, I'm going to spend X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars to build this, and we had an energy company came here a number of years ago trying to put a project in. It was a thermal project where it was an incinerator process, and they couldn't get the PPAs. And if those of you haven't followed it, that's purchase power agreements with the utility companies. They couldn't get the PPAs. I don't know what the luck is today because that was probably 10, 12, 15 years ago. This mentions 5 gigawatts of power. Is that the 18,000 homes or businesses approximately, or is this?
No, so 5 gigawatts is what I believe it's Consumers Energy is targeting by 2030. So this would be 100 megawatts, which, 1,000 megawatts per gigawatt. So this would be a small portion of that. So I think to address your comments about cost of energy, if there are not projects of this size, the higher the price. And if the renewable energy targets for the state of Michigan are to be met, it is more than likely going to come from utility scale projects. And so this would be considered a utility scale project, which it is our hope that based on the retirements that are planned, that these are less capital intensive than building a coal facility or a natural gas facility or a nuclear facility. So it's something that not only supports the environment, but hopefully also provides lower cost of energy, because the cost curve of building a project this size is actually very competitive with those conventional resources.
What kind of investment would this be of that size if you were able to obtain that kind of acres? I mean, how many $1 million?
So it's $1. Think about it as $1 per watt. So this would be about $100 million.
And then your decommissioning bond, because first thing I thought was like a performance bond of some type, but decommission bond similar. So what is put aside? Is it so much of that $100 million? Is it put $10 million?
So the way that's normally handled within the industry is you have an independent engineer come out and give you an actual decommissioning cost, like actually a cost estimate saying this is how much labor is going to take to get those piles out of the ground, remove all the facilities, all those trucks to get that equipment out of here. Give us a cost, and that cost is normally revisited every 5 years because prices of materials change. So every 5 years we would have to re-up that decommissioning bond so that it addresses the independent engineer's assessment.
So you hit my next question, because I was going to say what happens when those costs keep going up and up and up. If you put $5 million aside, and by the time you get 25 years down the road, now it's
yeah. So we would commit to making sure that occurs every 5 years.
Like I said, I'm not completely opposed. I'm not 100% for either. I do think this needs some more research from a township level. I sit on the Planning Commission as liaison from this board to Planning Commission. We do have a meeting tomorrow night, so in my board member time, I'll just make a quick couple comments in there, maybe take some information if you have a couple extra packets.
Sure.
At least distribute it to them and say, this is what we talked about at the township board level. And, I'm not going to ask for their opinion, yes, no, or otherwise, but get some information in their hands, because some of those people will eventually be involved with the discussions. And again, we do strongly listen to our citizens as well.
Of course. Yeah, and, it's our hope that, we listen. I hope you guys know that we are sincere when we say we want to listen and we want to address, those concerns from the community.
And one of the big things, it may seem minimal to some things because there's other concerns as well, but it's the aesthetics and the view. Again, the 125 acres down there, it's not maintained at all. So, you're 24 inches, I guess that's tolerable. But yeah, is there a performance issue? What if it doesn't get cut? What if it doesn't get taken care of? Then what? And so there's got to be some kind of repercussions. Sure. To that fact as well.
Yeah, and I think we'd be happy to work on some language that ensures that we are compliant with the county's requirements.
And if at some point this board does decide to move forward with this and tell planning to take some action to start looking at things, then we need to take a real strong look. And again, you'd have to go through site plan approval and everything else. So we'd want to make sure that people understand, if this project was to go forward, there's definitely got to be some good restrictions in there to protect the property owners. Number one, The one thing, and I don't know the houses individually, but if somebody's house is surrounded by this stuff, I don't like it, the actual surrounding it. If it's way back out behind, I mean, I heard one gentleman mentioned, one down by Dana and Toledo. Well, that's along I-75. I mean, nobody cares. That's an industrial area.
Yep.
But when you put it right in somebody's backyard that's been looking at, trees and deer and other kinds of critters for a number of years, it's tough to swallow.
Yeah. No, we understand that. I think when we say 800 acres, we are, we do not plan to use 800 acres. We hope to set back far enough so you don't even know it's there.
That would be the intent if it goes.
Anybody else on the board have comments or suggestions? Januzak?
I just want to say that I am not in favor of rezoning agricultural to do this. I feel that if we're going to have something like this, it should be in an industrial area. Me personally, growing up, I came from a city as well. We moved here. It was beautiful, farms. I'm not for changing agricultural to this. That's just my opinion.
Trudy, Craig, you have any more comments?
Why aren't you looking at the industrial property that we already have?
We would welcome the ability to look at it. I think what we have targeted is a certain size of project that is able to meet the commitments of our board. So it's our hope to find communities that are also sharing the interest in a project like we have. It's not to say we wouldn't look at the property. It's just it's the ideal intersection of where landowners also want the project. So we have to get the landowner to express interest and hopefully provide feedback that they would like to do this with their land. So it's kind of making sure that we're finding project areas that meet that set the project up for success. So it's tough for me to say we didn't target the industrial area without looking at it currently.
Because I personally would rather see it in an industrial area than in an ag area.
Okay. Mr. Montry, do you have any comments or questions? I just have a question for the board. Because
I had another comment that I got cut off. I'm going to finish.
Oh, go ahead.
The one thing that I did want to say is one of my last comments was, and it was one of the bullet points brought up, this area is specifically designated for ag preservation. That's going to be another tough one to swallow. If we, you say the underlying zoning is going to stay there, but like you said, farmers aren't going to wait around for 20, 30 years. Their kids are going to get out, if they even want to stay in it today. That's tough as it is. And then to hold it 25, 30 years, it'll never be a farm again. So that's another struggle that I have with it. So
I'm just curious for the board members, because something I like to do, because honestly, I didn't even take the call for this project. Al Pryor did in my office, and at first I kind of had the same kind of reaction as Todd did. But as I learned a little bit more about it, I become a little open to hearing about it, because it is a huge project. And so for something like this, it's the same thing when we dealt with marijuana, and the same thing we dealt with the ordinance change for composting. I asked 12 random residents, including a few family members, just what they thought about it, because I don't like to put it on social media because it just gets crazy and out of hand. And to be quite honest with you, I was surprised only one out of those 12 were like, absolutely not. And it was a surprise to me because I gave it in an unbiased way and just said, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Because I just was curious of what their thoughts are. So I just didn't know if any other board members had a chance to do that or did their own little surveys.
You said all but one said no?
They all said yes.
Oh, they said yes.
But were they around the area where it is in question?
No. And it's, talk closer to my.
Tonight we just heard.
No, I'm saying we do.
Said no.
I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm just asking if board members did that. It's just curious. So I think you kind of have your answer, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you guys can move forward in planning. I mean, Mr. Steiner, you were kind of, hey, we'd like to do a little bit more studying, but I'm getting the feeling the majority of this board isn't even close to the rezone. So I feel like you have your answer. You can move to the planning and go through the process, but at this point with this board, it's not looking very promising. So you're welcome to ask more questions or continue on with it, or if the board wants to do more studying. But the last thing I want to do is waste your time. And that's why I brought it here first instead of it going through the process. So I don't know if any other board members have any other questions, comments. Joe?
To be here for 3 to 6 months, I'm going to say, let's just split hairs and say 4 months.
Can you talk closer to the mic? I'm sorry.
To be here 3 to 6 months in this township, and this is the first we're hearing about it 2 weeks ago, it would have been nice that 4 months ago, hey, just so you know, we're in your township, we're looking at this, to give us more time to do a little research or get some more information out. But
I heard about it 3 weeks ago myself. And here's the thing: is we can do that. We're in no hurry to say go away. We can study it. We can send it to Planning Commission and let them take their time and look at ordinance and bring it to us. We have that option to do. I mean, that's why they're here, is to start to be good. They've said multiple times they're not in a hurry. This is the beginning. It's a 3 to 5 year project. So that's the whole point. They're not trying to shove anything down our throats, and I'm not either. I'm just putting it here so you guys know about it.
I have a question. So you said you knew about it about 3 weeks ago.
I mean,
Right.
give or take,
Well,
it was a few weeks ago.
We found out about it on Thursday when we got our board packet.
Okay.
So my question is, if you knew about it 3 weeks ago, why wasn't the rest of the board notified, just so that we could do our own research?
Okay, do you recall the last board meeting when I said to each one of you up here after the meeting, I said, hey, there's a solar project coming?
You did mention
Did I
it, but
mention
you
that? So that was a month ago.
But wait, you mentioned it, but you mentioned that you were going to bring it.
Let me
for
ask you, why are
item.
you,
I'm
why are
just
you getting
asking.
all defensive and shaking and getting all upset with me? I'm just
I
bringing something.
I always do this. I'm
Just
sorry.
settle, just settle down. I'm not
Please-
here to shove anything
Please don't tell
down
me
your
to
throat.
settle down.
Well,
I'm done. I'm done.
so I said every one of the board members, so you had plenty of time to look at it. I'm not here in favor of or opposed to it either. I'm here to learn. And I feel like it's like, well, Paul's hiding from us. No, it's a project that got a phone call from Al Pryor and gave you the packets, and here we are.
Paul, I don't think you're hiding anything from us. I think they did. Thank you.
You guys can think whatever you want, but the bottom line is they're here. They have packets, and we're in no hurry to do anything. But I just telling you the feeling I'm getting from the board, and you're probably getting the same feeling, is it's not going to go anywhere.
I have one more question. Now, they've already allowed this in Erie. Why don't you guys look over there?
Again, it's a calculated decision. This is part of the calculation. So if you're telling me that Bedford's not gonna be supportive of the project, then that's part of our calculation whether to move forward. So we like the point of interconnection that we assessed. We found the landowners. We feel like solar is a good investment for communities that provides landowners an alternative source of wealth. It keeps property that is fallow property that becomes regenerative and soils are able to be farmed again. We do not feel like solar is a complete eyesore. We'll take steps to mitigate those visual impacts. It is our hope that solar Bedford Township can be part of the wave of renewable energy that's coming. And with regards to energy storage, that is another area that this industry is addressing as we speak. So these solar projects, there will be standalone energy storage that takes the power and makes sure that it is able to be used when the sun's not shining. So, we will assess, areas that have support for the project locally. That's what we're here to do tonight. And, we really appreciate your time.
I appreciate one more. Now, instead of like these big solar fields, why don't you guys go after individual houses? Is that just not cost effective for you?
Yeah,
because that way the person buying the solar panel is benefiting from it because it's their own powered energy that they're getting.
Yeah,
is that just not cost effective for you? Because I think that would be a better route to go.
There's definitely companies that do, use that as a business model. Unfortunately, that's just not our business model.
Mr. Steiner.
I think the best thing is number one, let's give them the opportunity to look at our industrial properties and see what is possibly there. And as I said, if you want to leave a couple extra packets, I'll at least show it to Planning Commission tomorrow and just say, this is for your purview. take a look at it and give me your opinions, or set your cards here and I'll say, call them if you have any questions or any comments. And, that can start some dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a couple board members brought up industrial property. Where is all this industrial property?
We still have industrial
What, about 40 acres?
Yeah, there's a little more over there.
And it's really unbuildable. I mean, there's not a bunch of industrial property. They're here because they've said the trunk line that runs through, and they've identified a large farm. And to be honest with you, if I brought it to you 6 months ago, you said you wanted to vote no for one reason. You don't want it in farm fields. So what would it matter if I brought it to you 3 days difference? So I don't know why you.
The industrial land is unbuildable, but for solar panels, they could build on it.
It would be great, but
But that's why I brought up industrial, because that would be perfect for that area.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, let me just make one comment. This board, by resolution, has adopted a policy relative to zoning, to text amendments to the zoning ordinance. And I will tell you that our planning commission and our planning department will not consider this unless the board directs them to. Now, it's different than rezoning a parcel, and that's not what's happening here. This parcel is already zoned agricultural, and they're proposing that it remain agricultural, and that our zoning ordinance be amended to allow this type of development within an ag district. So our planning commission will not consider it unless this board directs them to fashion a text amendment to the zoning ordinance and bring it back. Now, that doesn't mean they'll do it, because they could, even if the board directed them, they could consider it, and they could come back to the board and say, we've considered it, and we've considered it, and we don't think this is feasible, and we're not recommending it, without having a public hearing on a zoning text amendment. So I just wanted to remind the board that we do have that resolution, and it would require this board to direct the planning commission to review a zoning text amendment. So without that, it's almost pointless to take it in front of the planning commission. Just a point.
Well, we appreciate you guys being here. And appreciate the opportunity of looking at Bedford. So
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
All
thank you for your time. Hope everybody had a great Labor Day holiday.
All right. Take care. Okay. Moving forward to 6A, approval to purchase 15 sets of turnout gear for the fire department. Chief?
Good evening. I'll try and make this short and sweet tonight. For the last few years, we've been replacing turnout gear. The turnout gear was bought in 2011. It's got a 10-year by the NFPA and by MIOSHA. About at 10 years, it's expected to be replaced. So we're a little bit behind the 8 ball in that we didn't replace that turnout gear. We had a big capital purchase in 2011, and then we didn't replace very many sets up until about 2017. We've been playing some catch-up. The intent moving forward is that we're buying 4 to 6 sets a year, every year for 10 years, and continually turning it over so we don't run into 2031 when we need to replace 60 sets of gear. So this is just a continuation of that. It's a little larger than previous purchases. We were purchasing 8, 10, 12 sets, but being that these 15 sets are coming up for into their expiration date this year, we wanted to get as many sets as we could so that we can keep pace. And then moving forward, we want to fall back into, again, the 6 to 8 sets a year. So the bids are here. We've been budgeting for this. We budgeted every year, smaller portions. We're just looking for approval for 15 sets again this year so we can keep moving forward with it.
Okay. Thank you. Any comments from board members? Questions? Concerns? Okay, I look for a motion.
I'll make a
Steiner?
motion. Oh, go ahead.
Or Mr. Gore, whoever.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase 15 sets of turnout gear for the fire department. Do you want me to put in there going with Apollo or rescue equipment? Are we going with Apollo? Contract with Apollo Fire Equipment Company out of Romeo, Michigan. And it looks like 13 or more each would be about $2,359.95 a piece.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gore, seconded by Mr. Steiner. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
Aye.
Mr. Montry.
Aye.
Ms. Janusik.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, and the motion passed 7-0. Thanks, Chief. Have a good night. Okay. Item 7A, appointment to the Planning Commission. I am recommending to appoint Comer L. Carey III to the Planning Commission, first terminating 12/31/23. Mr. Carey is a retired principal from Michigan Public Schools and holds a master's degree. Mr. Carey is a longtime resident of Bedford and knows this community well through his work as a field inspector of Bedford's assessing department. Mr. Carey is a skilled researcher, critical thinker, and leader, which are skills that can be utilized on the Planning Commission. He understands ordinances, land planning, and has reviewed the master plan. He would make an excellent candidate for the board member. So that's my appointment. I have a second.
Support.
Okay, motion support by Mr. Montry. Discussion.
Yeah.
Mr. Bruning.
Like normally, we don't say things because we may have information that we just don't want other people to know about, Logan. But since you brought it up tonight, I'll talk about Pete Comer, but he goes by Pete. Let's say, maybe even 3 months ago, he was just involved in an accident with our secretary, Al Pryor. He hit a 16-year-old, okay? They bullied the kid into not calling the police.
Be careful what you say before you get us in another lawsuit.
Oh,
you should probably keep situations.
I'm speaking, Mr. Supervisor. So anyways.
Because you're already making false allegations because you don't know the situation.
Oh, actually,
so be very careful what you say, Mr.
Anyways,
Bruning.
An accident, involved in an accident.
Mr. Goldsmith, I object to this because of information that's not correct, and I feel like we're going to end up in a lawsuit over some of the things that are being said. And I don't want to have any more tax dollars wasted on legal fees that we already have from some board members, so we should probably be careful what we say. Now, if you want to talk about Mr. Comer because he's on the agenda, feel free.
Okay.
But be careful getting into personal allegations you don't know about.
No, your secretary was
It's not a secretary, first of all. He's a deputy. So stop trying to disrespect him because that's what you do.
You gave him that title so you could pay him more.
Okay.
He doesn't do anything more than what Kim did.
Just get your point across. Okay.
We have a
Mr. Carey, but I object to what
per
you're
year.
saying. Could you speak to it, Mr. Goldsmith?
Todd, you do have to be careful about making statements.
Could you turn your mic on so the whole public can hear?
You do have to be very careful about making statements. You're a board member here, and any statement you make is representative of the township and the full board. And so you have to be very careful that to avoid a defamation claim.
Probably already crossed the line, to be honest with you.
Everything you state can be factually backed to the T.
And it's not. Okay. So far.
So
you better
you have to be, use your discretion, but you have to be very, very careful not to make any statements that could be proven to be defamatory.
Okay.
Okay?
So there was an accident, and there was an accident. As per board policy, our supervisor and clerk are supposed to be notified. The supervisor was notified, but not the clerk. According to board policy, police are to be called, police report, so you can be submitted to the insurance. The police were not called. So, Pete, Mr. Carey, has a problem following our current township policy, so I will not support this recommendation to the Planning Commission.
But that's my fault. What does that have to do with Pete?
How is it your fault? He didn't.
He told me, and I didn't tell the clerk.
No, he didn't call the police either.
That's not his job. He called me.
Board policy is
Mr.
you
Bruning,
have to make a police report.
That's fine if you want to vote no, but it's a ridiculous reason.
Okay.
Any more comments
I'm
from
just
board members?
Letting Logan know why we
Sure.
don't talk about things all the
Okay.
time.
Unreal. Okay, any more discussion from board members? Okay,
Yes.
call the roll. Oh, Mr. Erzberger?
I'm just having the attorney double check what I believe is correct. Oh, no.
Probably could have had him read this before the board meeting. Obviously, it's prepared.
What it says from MTA is that an employee cannot be appointed to the planning commission.
Okay.
Well, except as provided in this subsection, an elected officer or employee of the local unit of government is not eligible to be a member of the planning commission. So I was looking at the exceptions here to see.
But these are the games our board plays.
So
maybe bring that to my attention, you know, and I wouldn't have put them on. But why not wait till a board meetings? Why not wait till a board meeting? Okay. All right. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Peroni.
Yes.
Mr. Montry.
Aye.
Mr. Bruning.
No.
Mr. Steiner.
Nay.
Mr. Gore.
No.
Ms. Jandisek.
No.
Hirschberger votes no.
Okay. And the motion failed 5-2. Okay, moving on to 7B, MTA Principles of Government. Mr. Montry?
Yeah, we had, I don't know, on July 6th, we had this brought to our attention, we tabled it, and then I'll take responsibility for not sending the edited revisions over to the clerk prior to, but I sent everybody an email and then handed everybody a copy with revisions included, striking out the third to last and the currently last bullets, and then adding the final bullet to show unwavering commitment in protecting the constitutional rights of citizens of Bedford Township. Everything else is included as the MTA.
Okay, anybody have any comments?
Questions
about it?
Comments?
Mr. Steiner?
The only one that my question was where it says strive for compliance with all state and federal statutory requirements. What is wrong with that if it's a statutory requirement?
Because
I know you don't like
of
federal government.
Because of the, well, that's exactly why.
But
so you know the answer.
Our government is based on those principles. We can't.
Our government is based on the principles of our constitutions. Those are what I made my.
Mr. Frederick, can you please keep it down so we can have discussion up here? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Montreal.
Those are what I made my commitments to. Those are what I pledged my oaths to, was the Constitution of the state of Michigan and the Constitution of this United States. I did not make any commitments to willy-nilly
Phil, can you weigh in on this, please?
Requirements.
State, we've had this discussion.
Is your microphone on?
Yes.
Okay.
We've had this discussion before, and I will simply state it again. State law and federal law is cloaked with the presumption of constitutionality until a court of competent jurisdiction says otherwise. So it is complying with the Constitution of the state of Michigan and the Constitution of the United States. State and federal law flows from that through Congress. And there have been occasions, of course, when laws have been determined by a court, an appellate court, and the U.S. Supreme Court or state courts to be unconstitutional. But until that happens, they're cloaked with the presumption of constitutionality. So
I appreciate that. I'll make my motion to.
Hold on, you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
What's wrong with democratic government and freedom? Why don't you like that?
For the term freedom doesn't make any sense in that sentence structure, and democratic government, because this isn't a democratic government, we pledge allegiance before this meeting to the republic to which it stands, not to the democracy.
What was your motion? Go ahead and make your motion.
Well, I'm fine with scrapping this whole thing. I was just I wouldn't vote for it otherwise, with those other things included. So I'll make the motion to,
Just give it up? To just not do it?
I'm fine with that. Scrap it? I'll make the motion to scrap it.
Okay, motion and support of Mr. Bruning to scrap. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Montry,
Aye.
Mr. Bruning,
Aye.
Mr. Steiner,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to vouchers for payment. 8A, Ms. Hirschberger.
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $71,504.41. Fire District, $48,699.65. Police Fund, $85.18. Park Fund, $16,081.90. Fire Equipment, $24,526.95. Library Fund, $6,443.24. Rehabilitation Fund, $30. Lewiston Estate SAD, $550. Downtown Development Authority, $4,763.43. Sewer O&M Fund, $85,512.08. Trust and Agency Fund, $755.13, for a grand total of $258,951.97.
Support.
Okay, motion and support of Ms. Janczak. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Item 8B, approve the Excel Fire Systems Agreement for the Bedford Branch Library. Okay, so looking for the board to approve the testing and repair contract for the library fire suppression system. Excel has been the vendor that does our repairs and testing for our water suppression systems. Does anybody have any questions or comments about it? None, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make the motion to approve the fire protection deficiency systems for the library through Excel Fire Systems as presented for the amount of $3,176 as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion supported. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Montry?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Okay, moving on to 8C, approve Monroe County Road Commission agreement for a new traffic and pedestrian signals at Quail Hollow Drive and Stearns Road. This is something the Downtown Development Authority has been researching for roughly a year now. We went for a grant, I think it was 2 years ago, and were denied. We were going to put, the grant was for two of them, one in front of Quail Hollow, the other entrance of Quail Hollow Drive, and the, what's that road called, right where Purple Penguin is? I can't remember it, but there was going to be a mast arm there and the other side. The goal for the DDA is to slow down traffic and get speed to slow down, so that's why we put up the lights and stuff. So this is an agreement. If everybody's having a chance to read it. Anybody have any questions? Ms. Hirschberger?
We need to have a correction in the agreement, and I've spoken to Barry. He was supposed to get back with me. I did not hear from him. He was going to talk to the Monroe County Road Commission. We should not be paying the maintenance for the traffic lights, so in this, it should say maintenance for the pedestrian signals only.
And that's what they're working on, a different agreement, but this is just, it's one word. That's because
I just want to make sure it's in here so that we're not responsible for the traffic signal.
The actual agreement we'll get will be the one she's talking about. That's the one the full-time will sign. Okay. But this is the meat and potatoes of it. But Trudy's right. There is a one-word correction, Mr. Steiner.
So then, for full clarification, it says where the township and or DDA pay. So are we stating that the DDA is going to pay for all the maintenance? And if and then if the DDA no further exists, that we would pay?
Correct.
So, I mean, we might want to clean that up and just say and/or, because then you'd have this number going, who's paying for it?
Yeah.
Well, the DDA will until there is no DDA.
But I just want to make that clear in however we design that document.
So, but yeah, we can make sure that's clear.
Yeah, especially when they've got the funds there available to pay for all that.
Yeah, they should be principally responsible for payment until, one, they have no funds, or two, the DDA is
cease to exist.
Yeah, and I'm trying to recall, I'm stumbling on this, but I'm trying to recall how long into the future it goes, but it's not indefinite. The DDA will one day cease to exist, so that's a good point.
So the board can approve it the way Trudy has read it, and then when we get the new one in, we can actually put it under the memo for the next meeting. That way the board can see the actual one, or we can email it out. But they want to get it moving along, so.
So the actual one will say that the DDA will be responsible unless the DDA runs out of funds, or when they terminate, which after 20 years, I don't know the date off the top of my head, and that we are only going to be responsible for the pedestrian sign for maintenance. Traffic signals will be under Monroe County Road Commission.
Yep. Okay.
Is that a motion? Do you need support?
Motion to approve the Monroe County Road Commission agreement with those changes.
Self-support.
Okay, motion support of Mr. Gore. Any more discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Montroy?
Aye.
Ms. Jandisek?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mr. Bruning?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 7-0. Oh, you're fine. That's okay. Okay, number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 2 minutes for each individual. Come on up.
Lamar Frederick, 3254 Deer Creek Drive. Glad to see all the little people here tonight so they can see how this system doesn't work sometimes. I wish our folks from the solar farm were still here, but clearly you as a board, and you better get it to Phil, a copy of their purchase agreement for the electricity that they're supposed to be generating at this farm. The reason I say that is because they are going to put this farm in place, if you approve it, with an expected return on capital and use and a return on investment. And that's assume that someone buys their electricity at a certain rate. We know GTE or DTE and consumers have been petitioning to the Public Utilities Commission to substantially reduce the price they pay for what I call homegrown electric, meaning the stuff off of people's houses. They're not going to pay what they used to pay because there's an issue over whether or not they pay for the transmission costs, or whether or not they pay for distribution costs and other
Hold on
overhead.
1 second, Mr. Frederick.
Yeah,
Just
I
so
know.
some of the,
I see it.
You'll stop your time. Just so there is a tornado warning. If some of the people want to get
Well,
moving.
you interrupted me,
our
so I
fire
want a
chief-
full 2 minutes again.
You'll get your full. Just I gave you extra time last time, so we'll take that off from last time. How about that?
Is it a warning? Is it a warning or a watch?
So our fire chief. Just hold on a second.
If it's a warning, that means a tornado's been sighted. We better take
Our
cover.
fire chief.
Never mind. I'm
Just settle down, Mr. Frederick.
I'm
Get your
settled
time,
down.
okay?
You gotta
Hold
interrupt
on, we
me
got some.
again.
Hold on.
You interrupt me again.
My gosh.
All right, bye. You leaving?
Hold on. Let's hold the
Chief
tornado and
is
let
leaving.
Mr. Frederick
Chief is
finish his
leaving.
comment.
All right, never mind.
Jiminy Christmas.
But if this last thing, if there was an accident and we didn't report that properly and timely, you may have a breach of your insurance contract. And if you have a breach of your insurance contract, I wouldn't want to know about it. Thank you very much.
I don't know if you saw the discussion we had, but they're not coming. Okay, any more public comment?
Paul, is it a warning or a watch?
I don't know. Mr. Frederick wouldn't let me talk to the fire chief, so he wanted to get his 2 cents in.
Well, we didn't get alerts.
I don't know. No, it's just.
Ken Gagne, 8311 Lambert Street. I'm assuming maybe this solar panel is going to be shot down. But what I think everybody should look at is how much revenue is collected right now off in that 800 acres. And then kind of put the two together. It's my understanding that the 125 acres in Erie was purchased. And to make it out into the open, they generate, Erie Township generates about $8,000 a year tax revenue off in that. Basically, it's the same thing as if it would have stayed farmland. And the reason the trees aren't growing, they planted them last fall in the water, and within a week or so, it froze. They never took roots. So now they need to come out. They should have come out in the spring and been replanted, because they're supposed to be, well, a 2-foot tree is now going to be up to 6 or 8 feet in a couple of years. And they should have put in bigger trees, but they should have put them in at the right time of the year. And that's part of the problem over there, that the berm that they were supposed to put up never grew. But as far as revenue, I don't know how much revenue they would pick up from the farmland and how much they would get off the solar panels, whether it would generate the same revenue or not. I'm assuming it may not. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Mary Tizities, 7. Do I have to give my address again?
What's that?
Do you need my address again?
No, you're okay.
Okay.
Or yes,
I was
yes,
just
you
saying
already have it
when
from the
that
first
guy
comment.
came back up and was talking about the map and how if you had a house around, oh, we don't want to do that. Well, if you look at the map that he handed out to everyone, their panels were literally surrounding the house with nothing else but it on those little maps that they handed out. So, you know, he's saying that, but it's not the case because we live there. Those are the homes, and it's huge acreage all the way around the homes. So, yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. Any more comments from the public?
Teresa Pobi-Mensa. I just want to thank you all. I think it sounds like we're going no. But the one comment is he had super smooth comments to refute everything except he never spoke to the farmers. And if I could categorize 90% of the concern that we had, it was the farmers losing their ability to farm, us losing our ability to live and shop local, and they've carefully skirted around that. And so I thank you all, but I think that is the most important thing is there was an answer for everything, but there was no mention of the farmers. They were very conveniently skipped in the rebuttal, and just thank you all for everything.
Thank you for your comments. Have a good night. Next comment.
Ron Cook, 1059 West Temperance Road, Temperance, Michigan. Good evening. It's my first experience with this board in ever. I just want to change the subject a little bit. I want to alert you and invite you that at 8:45 on Saturday morning, the 20-year commemoration of 9/11, there will be a small ceremony at St. Paul's Lutheran Church next to Car Park in Temperance. And just let you know that that will be going on. All the details aren't worked out because, quite honestly, we haven't gotten that far yet. But wanted to let you know, and if there's anybody watching, let them know that that will be happening. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Have a great night.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Well, if they don't come, I'm wondering what they're going to do with the property that they supposedly already bought, which in my opinion was done in an underhanded fashion before coming to the township. Secondly, I guess I'm going to have to apply for the planning position. And the people with the farms, they need to understand that you can't assume that that open field will always be there forever. One thing I've learned in the 50-some years I've been here is that people have a right to do with their property within the rights that the township allows that to happen. And so we have to be very careful with that. But again, to steal farmland over industrial is unacceptable. Lastly, I'd like to invite everybody to Downtown Temperance Day. Your streets will not be plugged off this year, so people will be able to get back into the neighborhoods to take part in their local garage sales. After the attacks and the issues that were done over the last couple of years, the Temperance Action Committee is basically a 501c3 foundation at this point. So I'm not going to do anything down at the parks, but it's township resolution that that's the official downtown Temperance Day. So I'm hoping the businesses do what they need to do. That was the focus, for the businesses to do something to bring people into town, and then people can go about their business. The locals could have their garage sales and enjoy the day as that. So I'm inviting everybody to downtown Temperance. There's not going to be music to be blasting you out of your homes. Like I said, the roads are going to be open. The businesses are quite happy with that setup, and we're just going to celebrate the fact that it's downtown Temperance. So come on down.
Thank you for your comments. Have a great night. Any more comments from board members, or from, not board members, from the public? Okay, seeing none. All right, comments from board members, Mr. Bruni?
No, everybody have a good night, good weekend.
Okay, Mr. Gore?
No comments.
Mr. Montry?
I just want to thank all the residents for coming out and letting yourself be heard. It's important always. And come back to meetings that you're maybe not included on. Come back every once in a while and stay involved. It's important.
Mr. Steiner?
First thing, I want to also thank the residents that came, and you're still here even though your part is pretty much done. And a lot of people, they bowled out the door, and I appreciate you staying around to watch the rest of the meeting. Many years ago when I got involved, there was a few things that were contentious with the township at the time and regarding that and trailer parks, and there were some people really, really involved. And I said to them, before I actually got on the board, I said, do me a favor, just keep coming back. Keep coming back. And I'm not saying you got to come every single meeting, but once every month or two, just be there. Say your voice, because people do listen on the board. Then the one thing I want to also expand on, Mr. Peroni, you took a few moments of silence for the 911 victims of 20 years ago. And this, you didn't omit this on purpose. I know it was probably an accident, but I think we also need to mention our 13 U.S. Service members and soldiers, Marines, and Army, everybody that was just killed over in Afghanistan.
14 now, Rick.
Is it one more? I hadn't heard that. So keep them in your prayers. Keep their families in your prayers as well, because those are the people that fight for this country, for us to be able to sit up here and have these kind of discussions in a free and open manner. So, again, keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Januzak?
I just want to say that taxes are due next Tuesday. So you can bring them into my office. You can pay them at Fifth Third in Lambertville, First Merchants in Temperance. We have the drop slot that you can drop them off, or you can come to the drive-through or in the building. That's it. Have a great night.
Ms. Hirschberger?
Couple things. Gleaner's food distribution will be held this Saturday from 10 to 11:30. It's at the Lambertville United Methodist Church at the corner of Dean and Douglas. It's for Monroe County households only. No application required. Just bring a utility bill and a photo ID for proof of residence. I want to let the board know that I did receive a letter from the Jeff LLC, who held the liquor license, relinquishing the ownership. Now we just wait for the state to accept that and give the license back. I don't know if you're going to talk about this, but hazardous waste collection is September 18th, Saturday from 8 to noon at Indian Creek Park. And then our township newsletter will come out Saturday, the 14th. That's all.
Okay. So I believe it was a great meeting. Residents came out. We got a call from a business. We put it on the agenda. Everybody had plenty of time to take a look, do homework, make phone calls. And if we don't have enough time, we table it and we take more time. That's what we do here. But we do have times when the township can control growth and development, and this is one of them. A lot of people say, hey, I don't want a house or over a half acre. I heard that tonight. We can't control that. we can't control. If you own a 20-acre parcel zoned for residential of what you want to do, we can't and we shouldn't be able to tell you can't put a house there. You have property rights. You pay taxes. You own that property. But when it comes to rezoning, that's when the township can say no. That's when we can say, hey, we don't want that for our community. But I don't think we should have a right to tell you can't build a home on your property that you own and pay taxes on. Or put up your commercial development that you own and pay taxes on. You should have that right. So, just like the water line that this board approved to move forward, I mean, that will show growth on farmland. It's going down Samaria Road and coming up Secor and up Lewis. But I just want to thank the board for looking into it, listening, and I want to thank the community members for coming out. Let us know how you feel, because we do listen. And that's why, like I said, I did talk to 12 random people and a few family members and got their feedback, because I come into an open mind with everything. Before I get here, I don't have my mind made up. I just don't, because a lot of times it just changes, listening to people and stories and why, and it just does. So I've been involved long enough to where I don't tell people, hey, I'm voting no on that, or, that's, you just do your homework, wait till the meeting, and, have an open mind with things. And I think for the most part, most people did. And I just want to say, we as board members have to be extremely careful. There are so many things I would like to say from this podium, but I don't. And believe me, but we have to be careful. There's been a few things in the past year or so that we've had to deal with legally and have legal counsel seek on and waste township taxpayer dollars when we could just be careful with what we say. So other than that, things are going very well in the township. The DDA, if anybody has anything that you say, hey, it would be cool to do in the Downtown Development Authority, that is basically a square from Taco Bell to the church on Stearns, from Aspen Grove to where Purple Penguin is, that whole field right there that Mercy owns. That's all the DDA, which is a tax capture, that the businesses' taxes get capped and it goes into a fund. There's roughly $170,000 that it gets collected, and the 9 board members get to vote on what to do with those funds. That's why you see all the changes happen in the DDA. So if you have a good idea or would like to have some input, they do meet monthly. And we would love to hear from you, some ideas. Some of the cool ideas would be to put banners of some of the past and present Army, whoever, United States Force, to put their banners up with their pictures. I've seen that in communities. So if you have any ideas of something to do, let us know and we'll entertain it. But other than that, I appreciate the board and the meeting, and have a great night, unless we stand. Anybody have any comments? We're adjourned.